How you doing, Mr. Bankston?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We want to thank you. First of all, we want to thank you for taking the time with us. We know you're on a busy campaign trail, so we just want to thank you for taking the time to sit down and speak with Mogul Magazine. We appreciate that.
No problem.
Okay. So let's jump right into it. Normally in elections, you hear the typical, rhetoric of education, crime, employment, those type of things. We want to talk about the arts, seeing as that we're a Dance Mogul Magazine. We want to talk about the arts and how the arts play a role in politics and the community and the lives of the upcoming children. We want to try to link all of that together to have a serious discussion and find out why the arts has been left out, out of the political agenda, so to speak, not in just small government, but even in big government.
Well, I think that the arts is not necessarily being left out of the political agenda. I just think that we have to do a better job, and we can do better in terms of identifying what our roles are and what the importance is, and linking the two in terms of arts and culture. In terms of politics, it's when you say politics, it's anything pertaining to government. So like in Newark, New Jersey, the Newark Museum and other arts institutions like Newark Symphony Hall, like NJ are a part of a public-private partnership in certain instances, whether it's for community programs or just being an entity or a venue that may be funded with public dollars or not. So it's always a part of the dialogue. The mayor of the city, and I believe maybe some other elected officials, have the opportunity to even appoint people to different boards that are affiliated with arts and culture. But it talks about the same thing that surrounds or has a lot to do with why I'm running. And it's about having lack of representation and not having a proper voice. In Newark, we talk about in 2018, there's 72% of Newarkers who are under the age of 45, yet there's no one elected presently in City Hall that either represents that demographics or speaks up for that particular demographics. And we know that for not just the millennials is arts and culture important, but studies going back to 2005, and when you look at places like New York and Chicago and Illinois and California, education specialists and superintendents are talking about the importance of having arts and culture introduced. It speaks to how it helps kids, particularly in urban communities, have a better level playing field compared to other kids in other areas, because it teaches things like confidence. It also has a connection, not just based on studies, but just based on results being produced. If we really were to discuss and talk about the data, even having positive impacts on core classes like math and English and even science, in a sense. It also broadens our ability to be able to have dialogue and conversations. And those things bring about what I call transferable skills. Art and culture introduces and opens our world up to many things that may not be taught or introduced to us in a home or a classroom. And so it then perpetuates us to sort of want to learn more and opens our minds a lot more as well. So I think that we just have to have people who represent our interests, and they don't have to have an arts background, they just have to have appreciation for it. And if you do, you will see the value in it, and introduce those things as a part of the daily conversation. So I agree in a sense that we may not have, we're not doing enough, and we can do better. But I think that it's a generational gap in terms of leadership and what they believe the role of arts and culture should be, particularly in urban communities.
You yourself are an actual product of that. You grew up in the city of Newark, going to Arts High. You were involved in music and in dance. How did that help you become a well-rounded individual?
I think that in terms of even running for office today, it kind of makes me relatable to the three generations of folks. It keeps me connected to them three generations of folks that I'm fighting for and standing up for. When I talk about bridging the gap, it's not about just what I represent or what era or generation I represent. It's about linking generations that have been disconnected. And so, arts and culture, or hip hop as a culture, is not just something that's a young thing. It is a cultural thing. We have adults that follow this trend in terms of not just how we speak and what we wear, but what we understand and what our politics are. And if you go back to the origin of hip hop in particular, which is a culture, within the entertainment and arts that's taken on its own life. It started out and was first introduced by being about civic engagement and being the voice of the ghetto or from urban centers. And so being a product of Arts High School, which doesn't get the credit, but it is the first industrial school in terms of fine arts in the nation. And a lot of great folks have come there, from Tisha Campbell to Savion Glover and many others. Even in recent time, Michael B. Jordan is also a graduate from there. What has it done for them? What has it done for me? Definitely in terms of keeping me connected and grounded to my community and never forgetting where I came from, whether it was about the stages I performed on or the streets block parties I may have performed at, not just as a hip hop artist, but even, like you said, as a dancer as well, or even producing shows, which that we have done and collaborated on. All those things, I think, are a part of keeping us grounded, but also putting that fire, to be an artist, whether you're a dancer or a singer, it's just something special about you, period, that makes you, sort of gives you the appetite of a lion, where you just want more and more and more. And when frustration is a stress reliever, right? When we talk about mental health being very popular in today's age, when we talk about just eating healthy and living healthy, well, arts and culture is all about that every day, and discipline. So it's so many different, again, transferable skills. And what folks often don't connect to, especially if you have not had the opportunity to be in a formal setting of the arts, is that you do have to be smart. You don't, it's not, you have to be an intellectual. It's not just about, there's some people who have what we call raw talent, but it is those who are great, who choose to master their craft. And it's the same things. The key is education. And so, again, I just see, as Illinois has said, as California has indicated in many studies, and even comparing it to schools which have lost and taken out these classes, even not giving them 45 minutes, they've seen the impact on the academics, as well as they're saying that those schools who do value that, like Mayor Bloomberg, and has placed that as the forefront, they do see that their schools are performing better, and their students, again, are they're producing or helping to cultivate a more well-rounded individual.
Understood. Normally, when the arts is brought to the table in big government, it's also put like alongside the economics of it. Like the economics of it is kind of missing. So when it's looked at in terms of value, it's like, I don't really see any value in it. So it's kind of like always chopped, so to speak. What would you say if you had a panel, or if you were in a think tank? What would you say in terms of bridging the gap with the economics and the arts? Like, how could you show the community that you can make money? How could you show the community that you can create jobs within the arts? How could you talk about that and explain that to an individual that didn't see the value in how they could combine both?
I think those who do not see the value, again, speak to maybe the leadership that's more disconnected. But in terms of taking an approach in terms of leadership and kind of setting that tone, I think the best thing, even when dealing with the public, is showing them the examples. In Illinois, they are doing it. In Chicago, they are doing it, and they have done the work. In 2005, there was a study, but in 2006, there was an assessment produced that I think people should go and Google and check out, that you would see that there was actually a connection. It was worth the investments. There are some states that are in school districts that are investing $4 and $5 million on top of what they were doing, because they saw that in other areas it was working. So I think, again, it's one thing to sit in sort of this room of the same mind frames and say, this doesn't work. It's another thing to go out and test it and try it. And again, other states have found success with that. Other urban school districts have found success with that, and they're putting more resources into it. I think one of the strongest examples, again, is if not Illinois, is definitely New York, which of course is closer to us.
Understood. Now, you live in the Southward, and you're looking to, get it from under the current stigma that it's been up under. How could the arts help you play a role in doing that? Like, what would you do in terms of that? Like, if that was brought to your table, what would you come up with that the kids can get into to re-engage, the senior? Like, what kind of artistic things would you bring to the Southward?
Well, The greatest thing is I won't have to bring these things to the table. Once I'm elected, they're already going to be at the table, because those are things that are just simply embedded in me, and things I've always incorporated in politics. When I was a senior advisor to Cory Booker, I was using those different platforms, even for Councilman Sidney James, who used to be, as a former councilman of the South Ward. They were employing local entrepreneurs here at every different level, because I was bringing those things to the table to say that we must invest in our local talent. We must support their entrepreneurship efforts. And we did that in many, many different ways, and from DJs to dancers to hip hop artists to singers. And some of those people have gone on to tour. Miss Nana has gone on to tour with Bow Wow, has toured with Amarion and other different things, and every time I see them, they remember the opportunities that they were given here in Newark NJ Dance Group, which you were a part of, are a part of, still remembers those instances where we had those opportunities, whether it was at Bloomfield College or any of the high schools around the city of Newark, or whether it was a city, a government or political function. Entertainment and arts was always not just there for the fun of it, but it was valued and appreciated. It's a part of who we are. It's a part of the moral fabric of Newark and New Jersey too. When you think about Frank Sinatra came from here, Bon Jovi is from here, Queen Latifah, Lauryn Hill, so many greats. This is a place where it's almost like to not have that any endearing nature towards arts and culture or any appreciation for it. It's kind of weird, but in terms of myself, I think that it's going to play a very key role in terms of recreation opportunities that we provide for young people, but even adults. Through my role as the chairman of Parent University, we offer house and dance classes as a part of a stress reliever for parents. So in this Sunday, March 25th of 2018, we're having a house party theme, political, I want to call meet and greet. It's not something that politicians have been doing in this era, but it's something different. It's something that's engaging, and we know that music brings folks together. So it's an approach in a sense, right? That sometimes people may not come out because you're just a politician and you're saying, come out, I want to meet you. But if you can bring music, if you can bring entertainment, how they use music and entertainment to be an outlet, as well as something to sort of document their personal journey through as well.
Understood. Now, I know you're running for Southward Councilman, and this is the final question. What separates you from all candidates that are running?
I'm the only candidate besides Raz Baraka, and when you then look at my matter of fact profile, I'm the only person under the age of 45 years old who's actually invested 15 years consistently, not just running for office, but engaging in the political process, period, having served in 2 different director capacities, being a family service worker for the county of Essex, formerly running 2 different nonprofit agencies, being a former Educational Opportunity Fund director, and also being a founder of the Hip Hop Press Conference, and a father here, homeowner, all of those things, having the experience working for Governor Corazon, Cory Booker, and many of the local elected officials who are in office now, I think makes me a very unique candidate, and definitely suggests that I have a lot to offer in terms of not just bridging the generation gap, but being that new voice for change, for real change. And in terms of just the South Ward, we've had our legacy has not been leadership. It has simply just been about legacy and a name. And my tagline is leadership versus legacy. The South Ward of Newark needs leadership, not legacy. And what that means, it's not even about an individual. It's about how we see things and what we stand for. My legacy will be leadership. And so I'm encouraging all South Ward voters to vote line C1 on Tuesday, May 8th. And if you want to get involved, please visit our website, www.terrancebankston.com, and also for millennials and folks who may not have time to make phone calls or come out and canvass with us, but you may have just $5. Just $5 makes a big difference in these campaigns. Your support helps us make phone calls, get out the vote efforts, social media engagement. So you can visit www.gofundme.com facebook.com/Team Bankston, and that's how you can support our social media fundraiser. Other than that, we have many events. All of those are advertised on our Facebook page. I go live every Friday at 1 o'clock p.m. And so you can be able to engage with me and have conversations around that. The last point I would make about just arts and education too, and that's something that I did introduce as the former director of the One Stop, which helped increase the literacy rate amongst those participants by double digits, was incorporating You Work Behind the Music curriculum, which we brought to the table, and we used our own network of folks to sort of introduce and develop this program. And one of the things they did was focus on career exploration, which is about taking us behind the camera, which is about taking us to the guys that do the spotlights, the union workers, and all of the different careers, not just jobs, that you can attain through arts and education, which is something that is a constant field that's in demand. And while very few people get chosen to be the star, there's so many people, thousands and thousands of people behind the scenes. And so I think that particularly in New Jersey and Newark, with being sort of an entertainment hub, just filled with so many people who have so many different multi skills, is important to make those things available, and as important as the core classes that we are familiar with, such as English and math.
Thank you, Terrance, for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.